Hello again everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the new big Radials Curtis P-40B Tomahawk for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and we're parked up at Wheeler Army Airfield in Hawaii. This has not long just been released, and they've been very kind actually to send me a copy to ask for my opinion, to give it a go and to show you guys what it looks like when it's flying and share my thoughts with you all. So click like, click subscribe down below, and once you've watched the whole video, let me know what you think in the comments below as well. So initial thoughts of the exterior, I think it looks quite nice, quite cool. It's very similar to other World War II fighters, similar to the Hurricane, the Spitfire, that same sort of era of aircraft. But this one in particular, including this one which the livery is matched for as well, it was actually used in Pearl Harbour, and 284, which is shown here in this great livery, is actually the world's only P-40B and only surviving airworthy fighter from a Japanese attack on Pearl Harbour, and it's now in the American Heritage Museum as well, which is quite cool. So up until today I'd never heard of Big Radials, but they reached out to me in partnership with some of the mates over at Authenticate as well, which is a really cool freeware mod, allowing you guys with 3D printers to make some cool controls for Spitfires, Hurricanes and all that sort of stuff, so you can actually link it all into the sim and have a realistic looking throttle and stick setup. So definitely check those out too. So thanks for those for getting us connected, and I'm really excited about this actually. This livery in particular has got a hugely significant bit of history attached to it, so really nice to see that little nod to history. Again, with this, there's loads of liveries available. So there's two modes. There's a manual for this, by the way, guys, and if you want to do it nicely, then read the manual. There's two modes for this. The first one is RTDM, as they call it. They're quite casual, and that mode is called Read the Damn Manual. So that's what we're going to go through today. But if you just want to get in and blat about the skies, then use the old Control+E to get started. Your usual keybinds and things to skip through stuff. They recommend a modern flight model, and if you want a quick start guide, then you need to check your centre of gravity. Make sure it's around about 26.9% max, so let's have a quick look here. It's 22, so we need to increase that. There we go, 26.89. I probably can't get it any closer. You got to check that every single flight, because otherwise the plane can become a bit more uncontrollable. But yeah, if you want to start this up straight away, you can just hit Control-E and make sure your throttle's 1/4 of an inch open. So into the flight deck, we've got the canopy open here. It's a really cool little animation here with the levers for you to switch between open and closed. So a really nice little bit of work. We've got a compass at the top, attitude indicator, top right, speedometer, coordination indicator showing us our roll and yaw and things, VSI, clock, suction, altimeter, radiator temperatures, carburetor temperatures, oil temps, oil and fuel pressure down the bottom here as well within that dial, so little multi-display there, hydraulic pressure, engine manifold pressure, prop speed, and we can see our gear and flat positioned indicators here as well, and our magnetos. On the left hand side of the flight deck then, we've got a couple of dials and switches here. We've got throttle, big silver knob, mixture, red dial with the M on it, prop with a P. We've got loads of switches on the switch box here, and we've got some circuit breakers down the bottom too. Tank selector on the bottom right here, so front wing, fuselage and rear wing. Cockpit heat, which is that little dial there, and also to the left of the stick we've got our parking brake. There we go. Just behind that then, to the left of our seat, we've got the flap lever in yellow, and we've got our gear lever as well, that big red thing there, as well as our elevator trim and our rudder trim at the top too. On the other side of the aircraft then, we've got map lamp, because there's a little button there for us to turn that on and off. Original radio, which is in the aircraft, that's deactivated, and I'll show you why in a short while. Carburetor heat up here. We've got the cowl flaps lever here, engine primer just here as well. There's also a pre-stone warning light up here, and you've got a switch here for pre-stone warning on or off. Naturally you'd have that on, and effectively if in flight that red light goes on, then we're in trouble and we've got to get it cooled quick. Basically in that sense it's high pressure or high temperature within the coolant system, so not good, and if you don't deal with that we'll have an engine failure. One little cool fact, the flaps, gear etc. are all held in place by hydraulics, so they could fail. Anyway, cockpit check and start up. Flap lever neutral, gear lever neutral, trim tabs elevator up 3 units. There we go. Throttle a 1/4 of an inch open, mixture to idle cutoff, prop control full forward. Fuel selector fuselage. There we go. Parking brake is set. Carburetor heat control is needs to be cold. Push for hot, pull for cold, so all the way out. Cowl flaps need to go on to ground cooling, which is the upmost bottom position there. Ground cooling. Battery switches down here on our switch box. On. Generator on. Recognition lights on. Nav lights on. Electric fuel booster pump on. Ignition switch. Magnetos. Your spark plugs onto both. Engine primer 1 stroke warm, 3 strokes cold. We'll do 3 strokes. Starter hold energize, which is the down selection, for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. So, hold energize for 5 seconds and started to engage. On engine start, the mixture goes to auto rich, which is just here, and it sounds brilliant. So for taxi then it says keep the canopy open, which we've got here, as you guys can see that. Use only enough power to start rolling, look out for both sides, front and back, taxi slowly, and we have to S continuously. So similar to the Spitfire, it's a tail dragger, and we have to bear that in mind. We use brakes intermittently, we've got to hold our stick back, our elevator stick back. Keep both hands on controls and RPM around about 1000. The runway's just there for 06, we're going to use that today. So for pre-takeoff, canopy open, controls free, flaps up. If it's a short runway, max of half down. Trim tabs, elevator up 3 units, we've already done that. We also need to set our rudder trim right 2 units. You can see that right there, so that way, 1. Right 2 units. Brakes off. Let's get to it. Also for pre-takeoff then, quite nimble on the ground. There we go. Let's stop here, so we've got a bit of a nice position. It's quite, well, it should be a long enough runway for this aircraft anyway. Prop controls fully forward, mixtures auto rich, we've got that select there, that's at 3/4 of the way up, otherwise it's fully rich. Electric booster pump is on, battery gen switches are on, all pressures here, check that, let's see those are all good. T's and P's, fuel pressure 16 to 18 psi. Carburetor heat control to cold, let's pull that all the way out. Cow flaps combat climb. So the cold flaps down here, we want that to go to combat climb. And cow flaps then, folks, are these little vents here. If I have that at ground cooling, you can see they're all the way out. If I shut them completely, they're closed. There we are. We want it on combat climb. Magneto check. We shut one off and we check our RPM drop. And all good. So let's get the brakes back off again and start rolling. Let's turn our pre-stone warning on. Stick all the lights on. By the way, for those of you who might be on VATSIM, if you open this little secret box, we've got comms, transponder and all that in here, which is quite cool. You can set it and get it closed again. So let's get her lined up, shall we? Stick's got to be fully back for the initial takeoff run at least, and then as we get a bit quicker we can start to bring that back to neutral. We want to look to the end of the runway. We want a throttle of 45% according to the manual, so use a bit of brakes. Compensate with right rudder and right aileron. Keep straight with the rudder only. Check speed 105 to 115 miles per hour, which is just here on the cursor. Smooth back pressure on the stick. So what we're going to do now, we're going to try and take off. I think this is the 6th attempt now. Can't work out for the life of me where I'm going wrong, but it's just proving uncontrollable on the ground at the moment. So a bit of rear stick, right aileron. I'm going to try and put in power first with brakes on. Do 45 RPM. Let's go brakes off now. I'm hoping this might help. Stick back. There goes the most uncontrollable rudder. We can call it now though, look at this. Here we go. Here we go. And we are up. Lovely. Gear up. After takeoff, gear raise, gear brake, gear raise, gear lever to neutral. There goes those gear animations, look how cool they are. That looks fantastic. You see there, it's quite twitchy though. Apparently we want about 150 miles an hour, 160 miles per hour for climb. And it says S constantly, so we've got to, almost as if we're on the ground still, we've got to keep weaving. We're in Hawaii again though guys, so this is beautiful to be flying around. So you can go through all of the checks and have a little look at this. to sort of enjoy, if you like, and get the most out of it. You can follow all the checks, or you can just go straight in for spawning on the runway and blatting it. You can see there that it took me a few attempts to learn how to get this in the air quite nicely, but that last little clip there of departure, that 6th attempt, that's probably what I would recommend for you guys to try. Oh, it's a single engine, single seat, all metal fighter ground attack aircraft. First flew in 1938, and the P-40B is a modification of the original A variant, and all it basically does is adds a 30mm cannon, additional 30mm cannon, and it also adds some armour around the pilot as well, although it's still not that much compared with the later models. It did a lot in Pearl Harbour, and pretty much saw service in most theatres as well, actually, looking at the history of it all. Let's put it through its paces, shall we? Still got to max. Get that speed up. Up into the turn for a loop. It's the horizon. And there's the horizon again. Flies really nicely, actually, compared to the MilViz Corsair. This is a little bit more lax, a bit more playful, I think, so probably a tad bit more controllable. I've only got 50% throttle at the moment. Blasting along at about 300 miles per hour here. Quick flick inverted. So the P-40B, looking through the manuals, have got some really nice facts to it as well, because it is quite a historic aeroplane. It's the first variant of the original P-40, and it had extra machine guns in the wings, an additional 30 cal, and a partially protected cockpit and fuel cell as well, whereas the P-40A variant never did have that. And it's pretty much saw service in nearly every theatre during World War II. As I said before, this is the 284 was the actual only one that has survived Pearl Harbour attack, the only one left in the world that survived it, so quite a significant airframe that's been protected for all of history really in the American Wartime Museum. It's gained a post-war reputation as a mediocre design as well, because it's quite clunky compared to the beauty of a Hurricane or even a Spitfire that everybody knows and loves. But it also claimed a massive amount of victories over enemy as well. 200 Allied fighter pilots from the UK and Australia all became aces flying the P-40, so that's a huge achievement for the aeroplane itself. In the air then, in Microsoft Flight Simulator, I think this is really quite enjoyable. You can throw it around quite smoothly, and it's quite forgiving as well. I love the ground effects, the start up and the sounds in and around the aeroplane as well as you're flying. And it's not just a quick splat about as quick as you can sort of aeroplane is. You've got to manage the engine and make sure you don't end up blowing the manifold and everything else too. And I love this little animation here. That's quite cool. There's another little box. You open this and there's a whole load of tips and some other realism settings here too. So it's read the manual gears, you can turn that on, read the manual flaps, you can turn those on as well, just for that added bit of realism. Let's get those gear down, and they're about 150 knots here. That animation, that's fantastic. It said higher and steeper approach. That's one. Takes a while. Hydraulics. There's the second. There's the runway. Let's see how this goes. Ay ay ay. Right then. Put some flaps in. Stage of flaps. Okay, yeah, now we'll go full flaps. See that speed washing right off here. So higher than expected. Big data going right there. And then you want the main gear to touch down first in this, it says. There we go. A little bit of a wiggle wiggle. Got to be careful on the toe brakes. There we go, that's the tail wheel down. Not the best landing, but that is the first landing I've ever done on this. A little pirouette to say that we're done. So, little replay of our approach and landing. What do I think of this? I think it's really enjoyable. Compared to the MilViz Corsair, I think this is probably a lot better. More enjoyable to fly, easier to handle for takeoff with that little trick that I found there during takeoff at the start of the video, and I've actually managed to land it fairly okay as well. Compared to the Spitfire, I'll always love the Spitfire, so I think that'll probably be the one that I would choose if I had to choose any. Nice little firm landing there. There we are. And I'm going to leave it to do the pirouette at the end as well. I'm going to put the link to this in the description down below if you guys want to get your hands on it. It is quite fun, I've got to say, and it's the second little old school World War II warbird that we've got for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 I think, so really do like it. That's quite entertaining as well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit like and subscribe as well while you're here. And check out all my other videos as well, including loads of tutorials on how to fly the Boeing 787 Heavy Mod, the A321X, and how to get started on that sim. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all for a live stream in the very near future. Thanks for watching.